Okay, well, welcome everybody. I'm just going to share my screen again. There we go. So today, I just wanted to shed some light on like a really quite a foundational topic to my work, and I think anybody that works with clients and everybody on the call today, they are a therapist in one form or another, where intuition is just something that it's actually, we haven't learned. When I did my training, we didn't learn anything about intuition. I don't know about you, Simona, Bonnie, or Mariella. No. And it's actually, one of those, what I call, part of your inner technology that is really quite foundational in working with clients. So at first 30 minutes or so, I'm just going to share a little bit, some background, and then we're getting into an exercise that we can practice it on each other. So the theme for today is that, that intuition is one of your superpowers and one of the most powerful inner technology tools, like I call it, that you can use. And it's really a bridge to your superconscious, your genius, and you're engaging the higher neural pathways, the higher parts of your brain. And really it's this part that operates and gets information from a higher perspective, from beyond your senses, so beyond anything that you've known before often. And it's kind of, sometimes it's not even logic, but it just kind of emerges. And really, when you're connecting with a client, and that can be one-on-one or even online, you're really connecting with that field, that infinite field that binds all of us and connects all of us. And like when you look at, like when we have our body, basically our body is like a receiver of information, right? Our brain, you can say, is a receiver of intelligence and information, and our bodies translate that. But everything that we use in our bodies translated. So, for some of us, maybe we feel it more. Others might get like a physical sensation, or some maybe are more visual and get more like symbols, or there's even people that are more like they hear things. So it's really about like connecting with what part of you are you using in getting that information. And but I always say, like when you dream, for example, you can also see and hear and sense and know, but actually at that moment in your dream, you're not really perceiving with your senses, if that makes sense. So every cell of your body can actually see, hear, and sense and know and feel. So not just the normal senses that normally you receive information through your senses, what you hear, what you smell, right, what you feel. But when you perceive information through your intuition, that kind of goes beyond those senses, if that makes sense. And often when you receive information from that higher pathway, it's very it's very creative. It is new, it's fresh, and it's often not filtered through what you think is true, or maybe your own fears. So this is, you can, like, I believe when you're really able to tune into this aspect of yourself, you can be of service to your client in like a much, in a really expanded way. Well, today I want to really just shine some light on on that, and yeah, how you are actually perceiving that information, and how we can practice that together. So yeah, so the premise that I wanted to, is like the framework, what I wanted to use today is that how we define things really shapes how we receive things. It shapes our perception. And you know, most of the time, of course, these are filtered by our limiting beliefs, which is, or beliefs, what we have. But of course, they are most of the time quite limited in how we perceive the world. So in essence, what we're doing here is we're really questioning those beliefs, and yeah, giving back like what we receive, what information we receive around those beliefs. And ultimately, the question is, where do you place your power? So there is, you can place your power in either your vision or your identity. So we're going to work with two distinct circles today. And I define them as a growth circle or a resistance circle. And so your growth circle would be like, what is it that you, what are you in that reality? What are you when you really fully step into that reality where you can grow and expand? And what are you when you are stepping in a reality where you resist that growth, which is often your ego mind and your identity? And of course, in order to grow and develop, we need to learn to become aware of those different orientations. And of course, first of all, we need to become aware of our own orientations, but also working with clients, you might pick up on some information, because I don't know about you, Marjelle, but or Simone, you also work with clients that often you pick up more information about, like, how do you deal with that? Like, if you're working with a client, we are of course working with the body, but do you pick up like other kinds of information about a person or a client, and how do you deal with that?
Shall I go first, Simone, or do you want to go first?
Yeah, like, I'm just curious, like, how do you incorporate intuition and that kind of sixth sense that we all have, that we're actually not really trained to use in our profession in such a way. But does any of you like integrate that in their work?
Well, I think I pick up on a lot of things. It's already, of course, body language and how people look and how they smell even, I mean, it's my nose is very sensitive. So of course, sometimes it's very obvious when somebody stinks of smoke or something. Okay, that's something different. But when I touch somebody, I pick up on a lot of stuff. And well, I definitely integrate it. It even happens that sometimes when I finish my adjustments, and then I think, oh, I don't even think, then my hand goes somewhere, and then you find a spot that you missed or maybe just showed up without even touching or going to my checking my parameters again. I do that. But I also pick up on their what's them keeping them busy at the time, and sometimes I use the word like a good example is that I at a certain point said to a woman, I really feel that your body is surrendering now, And that's, of course, very obvious when somebody is quite tense all the time. And now there is more of a softer tone. And then she started crying and she said, how do you know? Because this is the team I'm working on with my psychologist. And it's very hard. And yeah, so yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's so, yeah, it's really beautiful that you actually, you know, the first thing is to pick up on it and to receive that information. And then secondly is to become aware of it actually. And then the third step is to actually communicate that back to the client, right?
Yeah, but also stuff, but that's the tone of the body that you know that somebody's drinking a lot, like huge amounts of alcohol, for instance, or using drugs, because you touch the body and it's this specific feeling, you know, of kind of rubbery. I don't know how to explain it. It's a combination of how I feel it, like rubber and jelly, you know. And I don't always say that, you know. I mean, when people don't want to talk about it, then I don't say it, but I try to figure out, you know, or try to guide them into a, yeah, whatever, well, however, whatever possible way to a more healthier way of living. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Yes, so we're all using it in our own way. And anybody else likes to share how they're using already this part of your inner technology in your work, or even just in your daily life? Doesn't have to be per se in your work.
No, well, I don't use it, but I realized something when we did the meditation Sunday.
Yeah,
Staan jullie mee? Yeah.
yeah.
I got this feeling in my head. It's like, you know, like this pumping thing. And then I shut down. And I also have the same thing with patience. That was interesting, I thought. It's like
Ah,
sometimes, not always, but it's like something's happening then, and I don't know what it is, but and then yeah, I shut down or something. I don't know what it is, but it was the same thing.
yeah. I remember you said you were, it came and then it kind of made you go out of the
Yeah.
experience, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, it's almost like a fear response coming up
Yeah.
at that moment where maybe you are, I don't know, there might be some fear coming up of actually stepping into this expanded um yeah, perceiving almost, or this feeling, this expanded feeling and perceiving that there is
Yeah.
like a part of you resisting that.
And I don't know where it comes from, of course.
Yeah.
So,
And you, Bonnie, did you want to
Is
speak
the
to it?
background too loud? Because they've started doing some Chinese
can't
video
hear.
dancing in the back. It sounds loud on my side.
uh,
I was just gonna say, for me, it almost felt I've definitely felt that as a client, receiving that from various people. One person I go to that does acupuncture, she kind of, I don't have to say anything and she'll just be in my presence for 5-10 minutes and she knows what to do. And she'll almost know if I've got a headache and I always find it so, it's very comforting to just be in a presence of somebody who knows what you need.
Yes.
And it's a really like a really lovely feeling, because I think even it's like goes beyond almost like a family member, because it's somebody that's just like really in presence with you and really wants to help you. And it just feels so wonderful as a client to be in the care of that. But even with you, Jyoti, when we did our meditation and you saw so much in my highest light, and it's so nice to hear somebody seeing like almost your wildest dreams, but somebody can see that in you. And I think it's such a wonderful experience to be on the receiving side. But as a practitioner, I still feel like oh, I don't have that. Like, I don't know. I don't trust. I'm like, Jyoti's got some magic, like unicorn fairy dust. How do I get this? Like
Yes.
it feels very Sixth Sense, very unworldly. It doesn't feel something I have.
Right, right. So yeah, we're going to practice it, and then you'll realize that we actually all have it. But it's really like a muscle that you have to practice, and yeah, it's a different way. So yes, so the gateway to this intuition is actually innocence. And I love that word, innocence. I love it so much. I once read like a quote from a book, and it was actually about, it was an old book, like 60s, I think. And it was like an artist, a woman, and she channeled Jesus Christ, I think it was. No other than Jesus Christ, but she channeled him, and the book is called Love Without End, and it's a really, I've got it here, it's beautiful. But anyway, there's one of the quotes that Jesus then says, and he says, everything is born out of innocence. And when I read that the first time, I just had to cry. I thought it was so beautiful. Like, everything is born out of innocence. And innocence is, you can also say in no sense. So it's like, it's going beyond your senses, and allowing that awe and that presence and that loving presence that we all are, and that is part of our true nature, to really allow that to receive that. So your brain and your higher pathways are able to receive that, because it really is just a receiving, because everything is already there, right? There is no effort. There is no effort. There is nothing to learn. Because we really all have all this. It's part of our DNA. It's part of our makeup that we have this. So it's actually more about stepping out of your own way than learning a new skill, if that makes sense. And yeah, when we can surrender into innocence, we are able to align with that natural intuitive intelligence that we all have access to at all times. Okay, so I'm going to slowly start just kind of priming the exercise that we're going to do. And when I work with clients, and I'd like you to do the same when we start to work on each other, is that I call it the 5 eyes, because then I can remember it. So it's really setting a clear intention, stepping into innocence, and you can speak that out as well. So you can even make a little photo or screenshot from it, and then you can when you're going to guide each other through it, you can use this. So choose to step into innocence and go beyond your senses, and you choose to receive and trust information and energy from your higher self. And you choose to observe the obvious. And what I mean with just make it up is, what we did last time in the fields of possibilities meditation, is that you can also just make it up and really trust with the first thing you get. Trust and go with whatever is obvious. And of course, we choose to open up to the infinite source of information and energy as universal intelligence. Now, important, and that is one thing that I always love when I work with clients too, and when you're reading another person, is that you always see the other person as powerful. So there is no fixing, or the other person is not broken. there is no like fixing to do, and that it helps me tremendously also with working with clients, where it's not like me holding the client, because that's, of course, you set yourself up for burnout if you believe that you have to give something to the other and you have to hold the other or fix the other. Like, then it becomes all of a sudden it becomes really, there's effort there, if that makes sense. And it should actually be just really effortless. And what really helps me always is just to see the other person as powerful, actually. And when we start, to read each other, it's about trusting the first thing that comes and to really just observe. And you can observe with all your senses, right? You might pick up on an energy like from the other one, because we're working with the field, right? So we're stepping into it, we're creating a space, and we're both stepping into it. And it's really powerful, actually. So you might, when you step into that space, you might just feel like a sensation in your own body. And it could be like an energetic shift, or sometimes you have like, you feel maybe a body part that tenses up, or you might just pick up on something that you hear, or maybe you even receive a symbol. Some people that are more visual, they might receive a symbol, or some others, maybe you hear something. With me, it's often like a body sensation, because I'm really quite kinesthetic in that way, and also visual. I get often a lot of visuals. And symbols are one form of a language of intuition. There is, of course, many different forms. There is seeing, hearing, feeling. Some people smell as well. Maybe you have that, Marielle, because you have a sensitive smell. Or being aware of how your own sensations shift when connecting with the other. And really, this is an invitation to develop and refine these modes of perception, and to train yourself into receiving that information from the field with clarity and trust. And the more you listen, the more your intuition speaks. Here are just a few reminders of what I have experienced that works for me. And so, for example, if you do get a symbol, don't question it, and just make up for yourself what that symbol means for you. So I normally don't actually describe the symbol to the other person. Like, for example, if you see a big frog in a pool of mud, like a pool of mud, I'm not saying, oh, I see a big frog in a pool of mud, but it might say something about the state of that person or what that person is in, and then I'll just start to unpack that. And start writing, keep writing, or start talking and keep talking. You can, when you start to share what you experience from what you pick up, what you perceive from the other. What helped me is that I, in the beginning, especially in the beginning when you're learning this, to just start, to just keep talking, just to get into a flow. And at some stage you kind of pick it up and you kind of feel it. If it resonates, you start to become more aware when it resonates and when it doesn't resonate. And so there is really that, it's just a little bit of trying it out in the beginning. But for me, out of experience, does not work is when you describe this symbol instead of interpreting it. And of course, judging what you receive, like, oh my God, I can't, I can't possibly say anything about this. and waiting for it to make sense, because it often doesn't make sense. And here's just a little, just a recap of that. So when we do readings, it's just essential that you stay in a state of pure intuitive perception, and really magic happens. Like I've done this many times now, and also in groups and, you know, one-on-one. It's really quite magical what happens when you start to open up to this other way of perceiving and receiving information. Well, this is of course a little bit of a recap, because we've gone over it already. Okay, so before I'm going to explain the actual exercise, do we have any questions? Any, like, I'm just going to stop sharing for now. Share back. Just anybody who wants to, you know, just share what's landing so far. What's landing?
Okay. For me, it still feels like, but how? How do I do it? I still feel like I feel very cognitive about it. I feel like, but how? That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. And that's really fully understandable. So what we're going to do is because we have 4 people, which is great. I'm going to make some breakout rooms. So we'll have 2 rooms with 2 people each. And I don't know who gets, like, it gets chosen randomly. So we don't know who we end up with. And after that, we're going to start reading each other, and I'm going to just share with you what we do, and you can make a little photo from it if you want, and then it's easier to remember. Anybody else wants to share what's landing, or is it okay? Everything good?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
okay. Do I leave my audio on or off?
On.
On.
Yeah. All right. So what we're going to do, so it's it's about 20 minutes. So we have 10 minutes each. So we'll be in the breakout rooms for about for 20 minutes in total. And we'll step into a growth circle for 4 minutes, and then a resistance circle for 4 minutes, and then 2 minutes sharing. So that adds up to 10 minutes. And then we switch to the other person. So you have to decide. So when you get allocated into a room, you decide who wants to go first. And I suggest that the person that is reading the other is also the timekeeper. Because I don't have time, because I'm in one of the circles myself. I don't have time to put the banners up, like switch now. So you just have you have your phone, and you just set the time for 4 minutes, and then 4 minutes, and then 2 minutes. And then you start with, say, for example, 1 starts, and you start with defining 2 circles. Now, you can either, so there's 2 circles. One is a growth circle, and one is a resistance circle. So in 1 circle, you're going to look at what information do you pick up from that person when she is in a growth orientation, in growth, when there is no fear, there's the fullness of, you know, the expansion and the growth. and you're going to pick up information on that. And you can either make a circle on the right or the left, or up and down. I've done both. Like I like up and down because up is like the upper pathway and down is the lower pathway. So that's quite visual. But you can also define a circle on the right and on the left. And what you do is you basically, I'm going to show you. So you say, we're defining a circle and we're calling this circle the growth circle. And you point to the middle of the circle and you both do this. And then you imagine stepping into that circle. So you're defining a space and you're stepping, both of you stepping into that space. You just have to trust it. It might sound a little bit strange, but trust me, it works. And then you're both stepping into that circle. And then that's step number 2. You both step into the growth circle and you observe intuitively whatever you receive, whether that be a symbol or maybe an energy state, a posture, any intuitive insights that you get about the other person in their growth orientation, in their growth mode. And what does it look like? What does it feel like? And you just keep talking. You just keep sharing what you receive. And it might be a little bit awkward in the beginning, but just trust me, it's really normal. Like for me, it was very awkward the first time I did it.
So the other person has their eyes closed.
No, it doesn't have to be. Doesn't have
So
to be
both
closed.
people could have their eyes open.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. You could have your eyes closed or open, whatever you feel. And of course, that person is also picking up on things, right? So you pick up on things and that person is picking up on things. But at that moment, the reader, you share it with what you pick up.
And what if you don't pick up anything? That's one theme.
Then well, actually that kind of it never really happens. Like I'm sure you'll pick up on something, whether that be, you might be able just to connect with your own body.
Okay.
And see what you feel in your own body.
Okay.
And if something, like I often, when I step into or connect with somebody else's energy field, there's something that I pick up on my body. And then go with that. And then once you start going, things will unfold and you're kind of on a roll a little bit.
So if you receive something, sorry, if you receive something, you just say it.
Yes, exactly,
time.
Simona. Yes. And Simona, what you might happen, and maybe that's just fine, is that you start getting those unpleasant sensations in your head, right?
Yeah.
But that's also okay. Like you can just observe that and don't let yourself get too distracted from that.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Because
Yes.
you know now that probably might happen. And then so first you define the circles really clearly. Then first you step into the growth circle, and then after that's read, then you kind of, sometimes I wipe out this circle, and then you step into the resistance circle. You can also call it the sabotage circle, and you both step into that. So you're both creating the space, and you're both imagining stepping into it. Yeah. And then, of course, then this is, this can be a little bit, it doesn't have to be more challenging, but it can be more challenging because it's always really nice to read somebody in their greatness and in their growth, right? But just think of how you can be of service to the other, because things are that you pick up on and that are obvious for you, the other person doesn't know that often. And think about how you can be of service to that other person, to in a really loving way, where you're very present. Share that with the other person.
So we don't write it down now. We just immediately talk.
Yeah. You just talk, and actually, the other person. That's it's good you mentioned that, Mariella, because what the other person can do, the other person can write. So, for example, if I'm reading Simona in her growth circle, in her growth, you can write down what I say. If you want to, you can make some notes. That happens. That is possible. And if you want to capture it, otherwise you might forget it. Is that okay? All right. And then we have step 4 is after going into the growth, after being in the like resistance circle, you step back into your growth circle. So you define again the growth circle. And then from that space, you look back at the other circle and you receive a bridge. This is a really important step. And the bridge is really the next obvious action step. And what happens now is that the one being read shares first what bridge they received. So not the other one, but the one being read. And then there is, and then you can, after that, you can share, if you still have 1 or 2 minutes, you can share how it was for you, but we have a bit of time to share afterwards as well. Is there any questions? And you know, it's fine. Like maybe you don't know, maybe you make mistake. Like you can make all the mistakes, and you know, it's not about doing it right. This is just about practicing, and we're all most of us are doing this for the first time, or haven't done this much, so it's a little bit awkward, but that's fine. Any questions? And also, because you're in the room with somebody else probably picked up on something if you've forgotten something. So you're kind of doing it together. Is that all right? Okay. Well, then I'm going to make the breakout rooms. And I'll see you in 20 minutes back in this in the main room, yeah?
Perfect.
Okay. Hello, welcome back.
Right. We were just on the end of ours.
Oh,
Okay.
good. Do you need some more time, or?
Yeah, just a few seconds to share, I think.
Yeah,
Because-
well, yeah, we can share, we can share together. You want to start?
I just explained the bridge I saw. Bonnie was reading me. So it was the sunlight, you know, which is the bridge, and the things you said about yeah, it was very spot on about the resistance, you know, and especially there were two things, you know, that feeling not connected. And also the small being on the side all of a sudden, you know, like feeling like almost like not belonging. You're like a child, you know, in a grown-up world or whatever. So the things you said about small, that was, yeah, it was very good actually. Thank you. And yeah, that was the last week already. Also, when you explained about the wave, you know, that's that is powerful and soothing at the same time, you know, that's so nice. Yeah, thank you.
The wave? What is the wave?
She said that she saw a lot on the beach with a wave, but she
Oh.
also saw that last week about
Okay.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, like very powerful wave, but also soothing and calming at the same time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I remember now. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Nice. And how was it for you to do you want to share anything else? How was it for you to read Bonnie?
I mean, I found it much more difficult to read the resistance, much more difficult.
Same.
And so with the growth, with Bonnie's growth circle, I got many more visions, you know, and that's, I think, how I most of the time visualize something. But when with the resistance, I didn't have that much. Yeah.
Mm.
But then I managed to connect again.
Yeah, and I think it's hard because you've seen somebody in their greatness and you don't want to take them somewhere else.
Yeah,
The
that's
level,
also
like, this
something.
was
Yeah.
so nice. Like, can't we stay there? And then I think having to go there feels quite sharp. And same for me, it took me a while to get there. And then I could see more as I allowed myself to be comfortable with Mariella being in that resistance.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had the same with us, Simona, but then I kind of what I realized was that and I shared that with Simona too, is that, you know, you're really actually being of service to the other, because you know, whoever gives you back, whoever gives anything back about your resistance, actually, in a real loving and a way, that really never really happens, actually. So I just connected with that you are, you know, you do it for them, like it's for it's for them, actually. And then getting past that uncomfortableness within yourself, but you're really of great service to the other person when you can read somebody in their greatness as well as their smallness, because it's easier for us to see than for themselves.
I almost feel that you get the things back about your resistance from people who don't know you that well, actually. That's what I feel now, because yeah, maybe people you are working with, but are a bit more further away out of your inner circle, and maybe that's what I feel. That sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, life has a way to, of course, we're all a mirror. So life has a way of giving back to you, but in sometimes not such a loving way, right? You get like messages from life and from other people or from your family, but this is, of course, a space that is really loving, and there is a lot of presence there and love there, and that's what makes it so special and so different, actually, to be of service to each other like this.
Yeah.
And of course, when you work with clients, it's also important to be able to share those parts that are maybe a little bit more difficult to share, right? And how was it for you, Simona?
Yeah, interesting also. It was spot on also, of course. Of course, it was spot on. And yeah, it was spot on, zeg maar. It's about I tune out or something, and that's always a thing people say a lot about me, that I'm not there. And it's my way of safety strategy. I don't know. I have to move to a nice country with lots of nature, en geaard zijn is mijn ding, denk ik. En dat klopt ook wel.
Yeah, and what we realized in the resistance circle is that you actually most of the strategies that you use to keep you safe, but it actually you actually reach the opposite of what you think you reach. Does that make sense? So you don't get what you think you get, but you get actually the opposite of it too,
Yeah.
which is, it's actually, it's a double whammy.
Whammy? What's a whammy?
Well, I call it, it's the double, it's like, well, excuse my French, but it's a really clear way of saying it, but you get fucked over twice, basically.
Yeah.
You know, you think you think it keeps you safe, but it does not even, it doesn't do that, but you also, it keeps you away from actually that safety. So you get the opposite of what you think you get.
Yeah.
And that's the trick. It's the trickster. It really, but when you see it, that's why it's so important that we help each other with seeing it, because it's so difficult to see from yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So I need to connect more with my body, and that's my thing all my life. So maybe I gonna work on it now. I don't know.
Yeah. Great. Well, thanks everybody. I'm just going to stop the recording.
Okay.